Okay, so good morning.
Hey,
Here we are today. We are with Steve Schafer of Milow Outdoors, which is part of Milow Electric. And we are going to present this as more of a mentor studies because I've been following Steve's work for several years now. He's one of the really good landscape lighting designers, I think, across the country. And we can all learn a lot from his work, his abilities. And we just want to talk to him a little bit about his background and introduce you to him because we're going to have him involved with us a little bit more this year with regards to Ellie and in our trying to help educate other aspiring landscape lighting designers. So, Steve, why don't you give us a little background? How did you get started in landscape lighting and tell us about Milow?
okay. Well, I started out back in the 80s. Actually ended up working for an irrigation company first, and then went to another company that did irrigation, but then was starting to do lighting. And that company ended up doing a lot of lighting, and did a lot of the higher end homes around the Lake Minnetonka area here, which is kind of a higher end residential area. And kind of from there, wintertime is a little tough to do on the outdoor stuff. So I did a lot of interior lighting I worked at lighting showrooms. So that kind
Oh,
of gave me some different perspective on that.
yeah.
Um, and then I ended up going to Florida. I had a project up here that the owner of the project up here had a project down in Florida. So I ended up working down there for a while. And ended up then from there I actually worked with the electrical company down there, so I did a number of projects and developments and things like that. And then I moved back to Minnesota, and I kind of just went independent for a while, kind of went off on my own, and then I kind of like the model of working with the electricians because I was able to do so much more than just the low voltage. And then I met Milo on a project and ended up working with them. I created my own division. So basically, it's outdoor lighting, and we can do a lot of different things. We can do electrical, we can do low voltage, audio, video. So yeah, it's been a really good working relationship. It's made my life a little easier. I'm not having to worry about the business end of things as much.
Sure.
And so I concentrate more on what I want to concentrate on, which is the lighting. So
Excellent. Excellent. And what
yeah.
attracted you initially to landscape lighting? What was it that?
Well, I do kind of have a little more of an artistic background, and so I kind of liked the drama that you can create. When I first started, I mean, there wasn't really too many people around here that were doing lighting. And I just really liked the way you could be kind of creative and create different scenes and different looks and how you could adjust the lights to do different things and it just kind of fit a little bit with the art side of things and just kind of designing and uh that
Sure.
kind of thing. So yeah.
Wow, nice. Now, how is it set up then with if you're are you Milo Outdoors? Is it just you, or do you have a team of guys, or do you work
Yeah.
in conjunction with?
So I do all the designing and bidding and getting the jobs. I mean, I run everything for Milo Outdoors.
Okay,
Uh, Milo Electric, actually, we have a lot of electrical apprentices, so I can pull labor when I need it. I have one full-time guy. We're working on another, getting some more help. But I do have a labor force on the electrical side. So it meshes really well.
yeah, I was going to say
Um,
that's great.
yeah. And Milo's a fairly decent sized company. Um, and they've been around for a while. and we tend to do a lot of higher end homes on the electrical side, so it helps me, I get pulled into projects that some nice projects that way too. So
Well, I bet. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's great.
yeah.
So, how about can you tell us a little bit about your design process? How you, like when you first get the call or you engage with somebody, what are your steps in the design process to get to the installation stage?
So a lot of my projects are through landscape architects or builders.
Okay.
So a lot of times I get plans first. So I typically will take a look at a plan. I like to look at it just a general overview first, and then I'll start diving into more of the subject matter and different, highlighted areas and areas of interest. Um, and I'll try and, obviously we'll sit down with the architects, the landscape architects, designers, and go through the plan. And then I kind of like to just kind of sit on it for a day, not just walk away for a day, and then kind of come back. Because when I do that, I find that I've kind of had some time for it to mill around in my head. And I always seem to kind of look at it a little differently and come up with maybe some different ideas that, aren't maybe typical
Sure.
lighting applications. So I don't like to try to design it all in one shot real fast. I like to kind of let it marinate a little bit and
Mhm.
get some ideas going. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but I find if I give myself a little bit of time just to kind of think on it, then the creative juices kind of come out a little bit
Sure.
and
Sure.
we do some different things. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. That's I guess part of why I hand draw most of my sites
right,
because I
right,
typically I'm not getting plans from the homeowner or unless I'm working
right,
with a landscape architect, but that's kind of more rare these days for me.
right.
So I find if I spend the time drawing it as I do for part of
Yep,
my process, it same thing. It gives me that time to think
yep,
about the space and I start
yep,
seeing things differently and it's like how
right,
am I going to use this space,
right.
how is the mood in the atmosphere, what does it need to be, so it's kind of
Yep,
fun to spend that
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. And I do nighttime renderings. So
Oh
I'll
wow.
take a plan and darken it, and then I can put symbols on there with little lighting effects, and that kind of lets me think through the process, like you were saying.
Oh
Okay,
good.
what kind of tree is this? Okay, well, what's the best angle on this type of a tree? Where can I put
Sure.
the fixtures and what kind of light? How much light? Those kinds of things.
Good.
So,
Good.
so
Is
yeah,
that a
it's
proprietary thing that you guys have
not
or
really. It's something I do more for me. But since I've been doing it, the sales have been more consistent and I'm not having to backtrack as much. Which is good. I mean, it used to be that I'd draw symbols on a plan and then the customer would say, well, our budget's getting kind of tight. Well, we're going to pull out this. And then I do the lighting, and then
yeah,
they come to me, well, we want to put these back in. Well, I'm just, you're back and forth a lot more and takes
yeah,
up more time where now they see the whole plan and they understand it a little better. So um
good.
it's been a good tool for me. And there again, it helps me think through the process before, I even show them the design. So
Sure. Sure.
yeah, yeah,
Let's go back to, if you don't mind, talking
yeah.
about the landscape architects. If you're working
Hmm.
quite a bit with them or general contractors and other
Yep.
types, how much control do they allow you to have on these projects for lighting?
So typically what I like to do is design for the best optimal lighting. So I'll design it all the way through. Of course, a lot of times that's not, maybe the budget doesn't, you know, you can't do it for X amount of dollars or whatever, but it kind of gives me and them the ideas out there, and then if we have to walk back a little bit on this and that, or put it in a second phase or do something different, that's fine. But typically they give me pretty much freedom, they send me over a plan, and I look at it, and then I'll come up with a design. We'll usually talk about the project and what they're doing. I find that the architects, landscape architects and designers are more focused on what they're adding in. So they don't always think about the existing things or things that are already there, or perimeter or something like that. So I'll go on Google Maps and take a look at the site and see what's going on and what's existing, and try to encompass everything. But I find it works out really well. Architects are usually pretty open to new ideas, or and once they're comfortable with the way that you're working with them, it goes really smoothly. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
great. Build that relationship first, and then
yeah,
it
yeah,
opens up. Yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
yeah,
Excellent. How did
yeah.
uh, how did you develop your skill set for design? Or I mean, what
Well,
types
I
of
think,
classes or what? Yeah, go ahead.
so I started off pretty early. I mean, back in the 80s, that's there wasn't much. Now, I had a lot of art classes, and I liked art. I did well in it. Was thinking of getting into drafting. So I was always doodling around and doing stuff like that. So, when I started, there really wasn't a lot of training, or, it was more hands-on. You had to kind of figure things out, and there wasn't, you know, Ellie or any other organization
Sure.
at that time really helping you. So you had to kind of figure it out on your own. So I just basically, if I was able to get my hands on a plan, I would just kind of draw on it and think, do it that way. But it's just been a progression, through the years. And it's just kind of one of those slow learning things, I guess I
Oh
would say.
yeah, yeah. It takes time for sure.
Yeah, it takes time. So, yeah.
Well, along that vein, I have another
hmm
question with regards to what do you think's most important for lighting designers to understand?
Well, so things have changed a lot. You're getting a lot more information now. But I still, when I look around and look at like everyone's pictures and stuff like that, and everyone's throwing, a picture we just finished, this, and this, they're not really paying attention to hot spots, to grazing. They're not paying attention to beam spreads, intensities. Uh, I think, one thing I always like doing is, go out and take pictures, kind of spend some time taking pictures, because then you really kind of study the lighting. Um, but I think that they need to be a little more patient, think about projects a little more, um, and really try to develop, different styles and different ways of doing things, and take a look at it, say, hey, what looks good, what doesn't look good,
Right.
you know. Um, and I really think that they got to be a little more patient with some of what they're doing. Everyone's interested in putting in a job real quick, and hey, I got to get my
How
money
much
and get
money I
out of
need? Look
there.
at this. This is great.
Right, right,
So,
right. So, but I find that if you can be a little more patient and look at it, and sometimes it takes you 2, 3 nights going out there and tweaking things a little bit.
yeah.
Sometimes you hit it out of the ballpark on your first shot.
Hmm.
But it's not something that just, you just put in a light, turn it on, and a lot of times it takes a little more than that. So,
Yeah.
build that experience.
That's great. I'm glad you said that because again, a lot of, guys, I guess the seasoned guys who've been around like, yourself that, you've learned these subtleties and it is, like you
Mhm.
said, it is a patient thing. It's an art form. There's a
Yeah,
lot more to it than just the quick, slam it in the ground and
right,
run. So
right,
I'm glad you
right.
said that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always find that, moving a light a quarter of an inch can change the whole thing. so
Oh,
you could either
sure.
make it look it better or make it look, so, giving yourself a little time to play with it, move it a little bit, maybe even throw a lens in, do something
Right.
to kind of change it up and see what happens. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Here's
yeah.
another, I've got a ton of questions, but
Sure.
another question for you with regards to color of light. I mean, do you
hmm
play around with different Kelvin temperatures, or I mean, what's your thought
Yeah.
about that?
Well, so when I started, obviously we had halogen and incandescent.
Hmm.
Tends now, even that's different than the LEDs that we have now,
Sure.
Um, it's different. Halogen was a crisper light. You had one point of light where now a lot of times the bulbs are multi-points. So, and the lumens are different and, but I tend to find that most people like the warmer temperatures. So 2700 is usually what I use. I found that if I use 3000 or even cooler, it tends to gray out things and it tends to take color away. It's brighter usually, which sometimes is good. Um, but it does tend to take colors away visually. I notice it a lot on like red brick homes. If you use
Mm,
a 3000 versus a 27, the 27 obviously will bring out a little more of the red. You'll see a little more of that, but the 3000 I noticed really graded out. It's almost the different, like fluorescent lighting in an office.
yeah.
Um, it tends to grade things out. I mean, it's a great light source. It's bright, but it's not great for color rendering.
Hmm.
And I see some people use 3000 consistently, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. But I guess be open to the possibilities of different colors.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Water is kind of unique in that a lot of times the bluer colors actually will make the water sparkle a little more. You get, if you get some movement in there.
Sure.
So a little bit of the cooler colors actually brings out a little more in the water. Um, So yeah, it's a little bit of playing with it, but typically for most of my jobs, I'm consistently 2700 Kelvin all the time. So
Yeah, I know there's a lot of discussion on this, and I'm seeing a lot of people tend to like the 3000 more.
right,
Um,
right,
but I'm still, I'm kind of an old school guy myself,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
tend to do primarily 2700 and most of my
right,
work. Now,
right,
I will
right.
use the 3000. I may even use 4000 or something along.
Right.
Sometimes it depends on, that just to pop out things or to make a different
Yep,
type of feeling.
yep,
But as a
yep,
majority, I tend to like the warmer tone.
right, right.
So,
And I find, it also just depends a little bit of the style.
yeah, that's
Like on
true.
contemporary homes tend to like that bluer color.
Yeah.
It's a little more cleaner lines. It tends, at least on white surfaces, the 3000s tends to show real well. The
Hmm.
big thing with that is sometimes it's a little too bright,
Yeah.
obviously the bluer light's a little bright, so sometimes you got to tone it down a little bit.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but it's so each situation can be different. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
I
it,
think it was good that you said, that you did mention that, it's a matter of choice. It's a preference
yeah,
that everybody's a little different in how they like to
sure.
design. So I
Yep.
don't think there's any
Yep.
right or wrong, but just I think the importance of
Yeah.
color is knowing how it works with other materials and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
absorption and
How does the light
reflection.
react?
Right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
good.
Yep. I
All right.
agree.
Well, let's look at some of your projects. I've put
Okay.
together a collection of photos that I've
Sure.
captured of yours from over the years, plus some of your more recent stuff.
Right.
And
Right.
I thought they would be good examples to show of, and there's a couple things that really stood out to me that I wanted to,
hmm
we'll talk about, because I've noticed trends with some of, the way that you design things. And for
Hmm.
one, let's mention it up front here, is like I've noticed you have a very balanced
Yeah,
approach to your lighting design, which
yeah,
I love. And you're also
yeah,
the way that you illuminate architecture, so like walls and
yeah,
facades, it's very
right.
smooth and even. And you don't see
Yeah.
that a lot with a lot of guys. So we're going to see some
No, no,
photos, and I think that
sure.
it'll stand right out, and you'll see what I'm talking about here, which is
Yeah,
great. All
yeah,
right. So here's first one. And
yeah,
again, this first set of photos are going to be more architectural, like this of
sure, sure.
homes or whatever. And
Yeah,
look at how clean and smooth the illumination is on the walls. That's something that I just find it's really nice. If you're going to do it, do it
right,
to where it doesn't have the big V patterns and such.
right, right, right. I mean, especially a stone structure like this, if it's smooth like this, you're noticing the stone, you're not noticing the angles of the
Right.
beam spreads and stuff like that. And yeah, I this is something I've really been working hard on, trying to create more and more of a smooth look, as even as possible. It's not always possible to get the lights in the exact location where you need them to be,
Sure.
and using different styles of lights. But I do use a fair amount of different kinds of lenses, and I've kind of developed my own kind of uh, type of lens that I like to use that tends to take the hot spots if your light fixtures are too close.
Yeah.
I do want to mention one thing too, is that
Yeah.
on this project, the landscape architect was actually very, very aware that, I needed a certain amount of space, to have the lights in location. So he actually moved a lot of the plantings away from the house more.
Oh, good.
So, that's another thing that tends to happen is that, where you want to put a light fixture, there's already a plant right there. So,
Sure.
um, yeah, yeah.
What now?
So,
Talk to us about, like, I'm assuming these are like wash lights, some sort of
mhm.
a soft wash, and
Yeah, it's
what
a it's a
do you mind?
combination actually. Yeah,
Okay.
it's so I did spotlights and I did wash lights. So
Okay.
I kind of do spotlights to catch the full top, and then wash lights to kind of fill in on the lower ends.
Okay.
But they tend to work well together, and create a
And you
nice
say you're
smooth look.
using certain types of lenses, or are you using like a frosted lens or
Uh,
prismatic or something, or
Yeah, yeah, I've got some different prismatic lenses that I like to use, and frosted lenses actually help out a lot.
okay.
Yep, yep, and then different intensities too.
Yeah.
So, throughout this whole thing, there's different, wattage of bulbs and intensities, and I didn't do too much on this job, but on some of my jobs, I actually use dimmers.
Oh, okay.
And I'll dial it in because sometimes we're a little too bright.
Sure. Sure.
So,
Well, the other thing you see on this too, remember I mentioned about balance. So if you're looking at
mhm,
this from a compositional standpoint, you see the balance of the types
right.
of fixtures you're working with on each side, from
Yeah.
this main focal point of this entry here. And you
Mhm,
can see the path lights, they're equally spaced to both sides.
mhm,
You
mhm.
save time of wash lights on each side. I
Right,
really
right.
I think that's a great habit and or practice that you've developed there with that. So that's
Yeah.
very well done. Um,
Yeah.
did you do anything with those coach lights, or was that just part of
So
the?
those are gas.
Oh,
So those are
nice.
gas,
Okay.
yeah, they're gas coach lights, and they had some column lights out there too that are gas. So which actually was nice because it's not a super bright light, it's warm.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't take away really from the other lighting that's out there.
Sure.
One thing that I kind of run into sometimes is the builder or the homeowner, they pick lights that are a different color, 3000 versus a 27, and sometimes it can look a little off, but
Yeah.
this was nice. It was a nice, warm. warmer light coming from there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like it because it makes it more of the emphasis at the front there because it's that contrast.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right,
And
right.
the other nice thing too is look at your path lights with the glass cats
Yeah,
on top that mimic that warmth
right,
across. That's
right.
another nice contrasting
Yeah,
element.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they're kind of a mica,
Yeah.
alabaster type look, and they're a warmer look. So they kind of, yeah, in person it looks good together. Yeah, yeah. They help. They kind of work off each other a little bit.
Nice. All right, let's go to
So,
the next one here.
sure.
Same kind of thing, but
Yeah,
again, well, why don't you explain again what you've got going on here and then
yeah.
I'll
Well, and typically, left to right, try to keep the light as even as possible. And this one was challenging in that on the left side, there's a big open window well. It's 6 feet deep and 4 feet away from the house, so I kind of had to try to match the left with the right side and keep the lights in the same location. The
yeah,
other thing is there's hedges there that are probably about 2 feet high and pretty thick. It's pretty established landscaping on this,
yeah,
right next to the house. So there are some challenges in trying to get it, with the lights exactly where you wanted it.
right,
But
right,
yeah, so, but
nice,
I think this one I was able to keep it pretty even. Maybe a little more challenging than the other one. But again, the stone on the house actually helps,
sure,
brings a little character to it. Yep. Yep.
yep, very
And
nice,
one thing I'd like to mention too, so the two sets of columns,
yeah,
I'm probably about 4 inches away from the columns.
wow,
So I had to work pretty hard to keep that hot spot from really getting that base of the columns. So I was able to create a pretty smooth texture on that. I'm kind of proud of
yeah,
that one. So,
oh, for sure, yeah,
yeah,
and that helps to again keep your eye focused on the center,
right,
entry area, which is nice.
right,
It's a
right,
nice,
right.
contrast enough there to there you go, lead you into the
Yeah,
entry for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So this one was kind of a remodel. The house had
Oh,
been there
okay.
for a while. The landscaping had been there for a while, and but we added it in, and both those coach lights right there are actually 12-volt lights too.
Oh,
So
good. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So
Great job.
yep.
All right. Here's another one. I
Okay.
remember this one from I don't remember what year that you had this done, but
Yeah, this was probably about, well, close to, it must have been 2017, I think, 18, somewhere
okay.
around there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is down in Minneapolis. There's a lake area called Lake Harriet. A lot of kind of older to architecture.
Mm-hmm.
1900s. So a lot of the homes are a little more, you know, uh, older styles, older homes. So this one had some nice features on it.
Yeah.
The awnings over the windows kind of made it a little challenging because I didn't want to try to get too much, too
Sure.
many shadowed areas. So I tried to work with it whatever I could. Had some big trees on the lot, so I was able to downlight onto the fountain
Yeah.
in that area in there. Um,
How
and
many how many downlights did you have to use for that area right there?
I think I used, I want to say four, maybe five. There's
Oh,
some
wow.
stairs in front of this too.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I see
So,
the radiance in the
trying to,
front.
yep, yep. But, and then the tree, there's a big tree off the right, and we had a little bit of downlighting over there too.
Gotcha.
You really don't see it in the pictures, but,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Well, nice. Yeah, I like how it just draws you through, and then you got this cooler area
yeah,
up here to
yeah,
kind of set the warmth of
yeah,
the brick.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
that
I
was
couldn't
nice.
get them to change the coach lights. To the left there is kind of that archway is for to a
Oh, I
driveway,
see.
to
Yeah.
their garage. And then right over the front of the house or the front door, you know, they were kind of set on having whatever whatever they had. They didn't want to change it, but
Sure.
sometimes you just got to work with it. So,
There you go. Good
yeah.
deal. All right, here's another one. I've got two of this project. This is the
Okay.
your Frank Lloyd Wright, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a home? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So there's on Cedar Lake, which is another lake in Minneapolis there. There's a Frank Lloyd Wright house out there, and one of our customers owns that. They don't live there, but we have to go back and repair it every so often. And there was some lighting that was in there that just was beat up and really wasn't lighting it very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to the homeowner and we worked a deal, and I basically had the run of it and was able to work on placing as many lights as I wanted and try to create a nice scene out there. So
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, there again, trying to keep the light real even. I mean, you know,
Yeah, on the
the
wall. I mean, it's
architecture,
pretty
yeah,
uniform across. Yeah.
yeah, and the stonework was really interesting.
Yeah.
It's really really different stonework. I mean, you really don't see the kind of stonework today.
Sure.
But just that little bit of an angle on the walls, is just really kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Can
Yeah,
you imagine, like some of the new guys out there, they'd probably be putting in those under the cap little puck
right,
lights
right,
across,
right,
the whole
right,
thing, and then you got hot
right,
spots all over.
right,
So
right, and that's
I'm glad
yeah,
you never experienced that for sure.
right, right. Yeah, you try to stay away from that, especially when something like this house. So,
Oh, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
here's the other another part of it. Same
sure.
thing. Now, did you do the lighting on the
Mhm.
interior of these
That was
areas?
there.
Okay.
Our company actually installed those lights. That was on the electrical side.
Okay.
But I didn't really play with those. And that space, you really can't get a car into. It's supposed to be a carport, but you can't get a
They're too
car
tight.
into there. So
Yeah.
they keep their firewood there, obviously. But
Sure.
has that nice mature tree right there at the end of the parking area.
Yeah.
Um, but the stonework you can see, and it's just really, really well done and creates a lot of interest.
Yeah.
And was able to create some downlight shadows out of the tree
Yeah.
and
I
some
saw
uplighting
that.
and
Yeah.
you know, you know. So not a very big house. It wasn't very big. It had like two small bedrooms and that's about it. Um,
Wow. Okay.
so it's not a real big house or a big lot.
Yeah.
But a lot of mature trees and nice setting for this house. So
Sure. Sure. Very
yeah,
nice. This was one of the first ones that attracted me
right.
to you. And now I know you
Right.
have different photos of this, but this is just the one
Yep.
I
Yep.
pulled.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I always loved how this just blended right into the lake
Right.
behind, and
Right.
then the
Right.
shadow interest right behind the stairs, the
Right.
silhouette. I thought
Yep.
that was
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, and it's perfect because the sunset's right behind there.
Yeah,
So you get that nice sunset. The sky was blue. It's a nice cool night, so everything's
yeah.
clear and crisp and the water was calm, both in the pool and on the lake. And just catching it at the right time. I think I shot probably about 40 or 50 pictures as the sun was setting. So it took
Nice.
it took me a while, but I knew
Yeah.
this one would be pretty nice if I get it just right.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
great. And
yeah,
then here's another one that I
yeah,
always like. I've seen this one without the umbrella and then
yeah,
this
yeah,
with the umbrella.
yeah,
And I guess
yeah.
I'm a little, go ahead.
The umbrella is one with the cell phone. I took that
Oh,
kind of the night before we went out look at and the guy that helps take my photographs, he came out the next night and that's the one without the umbrella.
oh,
So
okay.
this
Gotcha.
so yeah, I do like the umbrella one too. I mean, I tend to show the other one just simply because I have more pictures of that one, but
Sure.
um when I first came out to this job, I wasn't thinking, there wasn't seemed to be a lot of lighting on the house, wasn't much architectural lighting. But as soon as I walked up the stairs, because there's kind of a hill off to the right there,
Yeah,
so you come up some stairs, and as soon as I turned my head, I go, okay, I know what I'm doing.
there you go.
So,
Nice.
creating some backdrop lighting I thought was really
Yeah,
important.
yep, yep,
And then the walls were really unique. I mean, I was really happy that we had a little bit of softscape, some beds on the sides there. And I knew if I could get the beams just right and try to take as much of the hot spots out of there as I could, I thought that would be a
yeah,
nice kind of symmetrical looking, you know, uh, lighting there on
sure.
the wall. So,
Well, and I've seen some, I think the other photos, you had, isn't there plant materials? So you've got some shadow patterns that go, or is that maybe that was a
no, well, so
plant
there
bed?
is a wall. There is a wall just below the pool area as
Oh,
you're
okay,
walking up. That yeah, I was able to catch some shadows on this. The on the
okay,
pool area it doesn't have any planting in there.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah. So
Well, I
I have a
use
couple.
this one a lot when I talk about composition in one of my
Yeah,
courses is as because you've got, this whole backdrop setting, so you
yeah,
and the pattern of the lighting on the walls, it because there's rhythm there, it leads you
right,
to whatever the emphasis is, which
right.
is it the backdrop, but by having the umbrella, then now that
Yep,
isolates as, like a focal point back there. So
exactly.
this leads
Yep,
you back to this point,
right,
destination for your eye to travel, which worked out
right.
really good, I thought.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the light on the walls actually becomes its own little piece of art
Oh
itself.
yeah. Yeah.
Where typically like the backdrop, you're just trying to light, you're trying to light the trees and create interest within the trees. But here the beam angles are come, as much a part of the art as anything. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what kind of beam spread do you remember that were used
It's
there?
a
And is it
60
an MR?
degree. It's
Okay.
a 60 degree. And there again, I have a lens that I use that can help me cut out the hot spots. So,
Sure.
if I used a normal bulb, it'd just be hot spot, hot spot, hot spot, and really wouldn't look that crisp and clean.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Good.
be patient and figure things out and try new
Yeah. Yeah.
things. So,
That's great.
yeah.
All right. Here's a newer one, I believe.
Yep.
Or and I really like how you did this fountain where it popped out as,
Yeah.
against this backdrop. So,
Right.
and
Right.
I've seen the
And
other ones
this,
where you have the home behind too. That's so
yep.
it's layered, obviously, but this was
Yep.
just the
Yep.
fountain. I'm shifting to that now.
Right. 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 Yeah. And the fountain itself, really came together pretty easily. I was able to put the lights, where I wanted them, in every, different bowl. So I was able to get, and then I have different light levels in each set of bowls, and uh and then the trees, they're brand new, just put in and uh lights off to the sides, just nice, nice softly lit, nothing too, too
Yeah,
much, but it shows
yeah,
real well. The
sure.
wall lights down below, I wish I could, I actually probably wish I probably put in a couple more, get the
Yeah.
light a little smoother, but we were kind of, it just kind of happens the way it happens, I
Oh yeah.
mean,
Yep.
it's I'd like to have a little smoother light on the walls, but I
Sure.
think overall, yeah, it really turned out great. Well,
Yeah. How about on that tiered fountain in there? You said as I can see you've got exterior lights around the outer lower bowl.
yep,
And you have
yep,
interior lights on each bowl, and how many
yep.
were you using there? Do you remember?
Inside or around the.
Yeah, well, all right, I'm just
Well,
what, like,
I probably had six lights around the middle wall, the fountain wall,
okay,
and we were dancing a little bit in between plants on that one. I wish I could have pulled them back a little bit more, but you know, you
Sure.
do what you can do. Inside the fountain, I got four in the base in the main in the bigger
Okay.
bowl area. I got two in the middle, and
Okay.
I actually only have one in the top.
Okay.
And but it, you know, on the top, you're really catching the water. The water's what's showing, so you see it from both
Right.
sides pretty easily.
Sure. Sure.
So,
And did you
yeah.
have to dismantle the whole fountain or
Yeah, it comes
okay.
apart, and actually, well, so they were, this is all a new installation. Everything on this project was
Oh,
new,
okay.
so
Gotcha.
we were able to get our wires and everything
Oh,
in as they were
nice.
putting in the fountain. So, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yeah,
Yeah, because sometimes that can be a nightmare dealing with
yeah.
dismantling and trying to get it back plumb and
Right,
then you have
right.
to call the fountain guy, see if they can come out and help.
Yep, yep,
Sure.
yep,
All
yep,
right.
yeah.
Here's another water feature, which I thought was
Hmm.
really cool too. Tell
Yeah,
us
and
about
this one was,
you illuminated all these parts.
yeah, so this was actually quite a while ago. This
Okay.
is probably 25 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
So that's kind of one of my first ones. This is a really unique, it's just a pond with some water feature, waterfalls, little bridge
Yep.
over it.
Yep.
But had two really large trees right, one on each side of the
I see here and
waterfall
back
area.
here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was able to do some downlighting. And this I think is halogen. This isn't LED. So you can see
Okay.
the light. The shadows may be a little more crisp.
Yep.
Um, and I didn't try to focus the light 100% on the fall. I do have a light underneath the waterfall there. Yep,
Yeah.
and the other ones too. But I was really trying to keep that hot spot and try to keep it so you don't, I put some rocks in front of the light so you really didn't see too much of
Good.
the fixture.
Yeah.
Catch a little more underneath there, and I offset the downlighting so that it wasn't totally focused, on one thing. So it kind of it focused on one area a little bit, and but I wasn't trying to flood it, trying
Right.
to create light everywhere. I was trying to create a little more dramatic
Sure.
interest on that. So, yeah,
Good.
yeah,
No, that's great. Another water feature.
okay,
Yeah.
yep, and yep, that's the one off of Lake Harriet.
Okay.
What I really tried to do here is I wanted the light to follow the water, coming
Yeah.
out of the lion's mouth and the others. So I tried to place the light so that it would follow that. And I thought that that would create a little more interest and a little more, obviously you get movement with that amount of water
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
coming in there. But yeah, I was real happy to have have the light kind of follow the water.
Now, are those 120-volt fixtures or are they 12 volt
No,
or
those are 12 volt. Yep, 12
okay?
volt. Typically when you're in water, sometimes you got to be a little brighter. So these, I believe, were 10 watts at the time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Um, So there's a little bit more of a push, but the water there is a little deeper than you might think too.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
So you have to be able to push a little bit more. Um,
Yep. Yep.
so yeah.
Yeah, now, do you typically try to do mock-ups in fountains and things like that ahead of time, or are you pretty dialed
Um,
in when you first get?
I'm kind of dialed in now. I mean, obviously before, yeah, I would definitely want to go out there if the structure was there that I could play with it, yeah, I wanted to go out there and kind of play with it, see how the light, you know. And you learn things as you go along. I mean, if I wasn't able to, I'd probably spend maybe one or two nights out there, finding different angles and finding what
Sure.
works and, that kind of thing. So,
Right.
yeah.
Good. Another one, I remember this landscape structure and setting. At first, what was interesting when it caught my eye was these garden boxes back here, and
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
that was like glass, like a frosted glass.
That's what it is. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it is?
So it's yeah, it's glass.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
They're glass
Okay. Well,
boxes is
explain all that.
yeah,
Yeah. Because
yeah. So yeah, this is a real unique one too. The architects, this is a house that our company has actually done a number of times electrically.
uh-huh.
There's, this structure was when I came in to work on it, this structure was here, but I changed the bulbs. They weren't very good, you know, really doing the job. I mean, they were just kind of, I don't know, didn't look as good. So we re-aimed the ball or the lights inside the structure. The planters, we used some tape lights, so it's a frosted glass.
Okay.
And we use some tape light around there. There's a space between the actual planter box and the glass. And so we did that, and then a little bit of backdrop lighting there too. And
Hmm.
but yeah, those boxes are kind of fun. It's real
Yeah. I mean,
different.
I thought it was glass at first, and then when I saw a
Yeah,
couple other pictures recently, I thought,
right,
well, oh, it looks like it's just masonry and it was painted like a
right.
color or something. But
No,
oh,
but
okay, well,
yeah,
that's
no,
good to
that's
know.
lit. Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of fun. Yeah,
And then there's
yeah,
like under the cap, like you said, strip or
yeah,
tape, and it just
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
glows down. Nice.
Yeah, and it's a little different. It's not a typical landscape tape light. We used a little more of a commercial grade tape light on that.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Very nice. And
yeah,
then also, I like how you did on this patio setting here, where you offset the lights where it's not directly onto the table, onto the,
right,
into where it's more of
right,
the surrounding space. So then that way, the less glare, which is good.
right, right. Yeah, the position isn't maybe the 100% the best, but I was able to create a nice kind of spread of light, and
Good.
not too bright, not
Yeah.
trying to flood it. We're not trying to, you know.
Right.
create stage lighting or anything. Just nice,
Yeah.
try to keep it soft and subtle. So
Good. Good.
yeah,
Oh, well, thanks for explaining that. Yeah,
yeah,
okay, good to know.
sure.
Here's a another one.
Yeah,
Why don't you again talk about this the space
right,
and the fountain itself.
right. Well, so this is one that I came out and kind of redid.
Okay.
And kind of reworked because the homeowner, they had some lights out there, but they weren't working. They weren't very good lights. They weren't aimed right. They weren't, really in the right positions. So I had some underwater lights. I was able to angle as best I could and
Mm-hmm.
keep it so you really don't see the hot spots. So the lights are tucked in the corners pretty tight.
Yeah.
And I'm not really trying to focus the light onto the fountain. I'm trying to point it a little more straight up and
Yeah.
create more of a wash.
Good.
So I'm not trying to focus the light on the face.
Yeah.
Um, you're trying to more wash it than you are trying to. And the columns there again, I just was able to kind of move the lights so that they're one, you can't really see the light source, and two, they just kind of just did a wash on the
Right.
columns and yeah,
Well, it helps to offset or as a backdrop for this fountain. I like
right,
how,
right,
if that was more
right,
dominant back there, then it would be
right,
competing with the fountain too much, I think,
right,
for
right,
depth.
right.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Now, what about color on this? Is that the natural, like a greenish patina?
Yeah, that's pretty natural. So that actually was 3000 K.
Okay.
And the statue is actually pretty green. I mean, it
Okay.
was patinaed. It
Yeah.
so it I think if we went with a warmer one, it would have looked. I don't think it would have looked quite as nice.
No, I think
But
so
that
too.
one
Yeah.
is 3000 Kelvin, and but so it takes away a little bit of the color, but in this case, I think it actually, because I think the other green would have been a little bit off. It wouldn't have felt so natural, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Well, and like I said, I think it brings out a nice contrast between this
yeah,
element and the back element
yeah,
again that
yeah,
makes it the
yeah,
emphasis really
yeah.
nice.
This is a situation where the color difference is actually nice. It works.
Yep.
The softer light is a little warmer, in the back is a backdrop, and then your focus, is more on the
Yeah.
fountain itself. So
That was a great
yeah,
job.
yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
I,
Yeah.
I think this is our last one, but I
Okay.
I know, some people go, oh, how exciting are path lights and whatever. But again,
Right. Right.
I like what you did with this because you're not only are you picking up the steps and there's
Right.
rhythm that feeds here, but look at the glow on the
Right.
wall, that warmth. That's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I was really happy with these fixtures. I mean, you can kind of get into a rut doing the same path lights over and over again. I mean, you can do different styles, but they all kind of
Sure.
give the same light. So I really
Yeah.
liked and it's a really warm glass,
Yeah.
so when you get that light on the wall, it really warms it up, and it really looks good on that stone.
For sure.
So yeah, I was glad well, I was kind of, I was worried that the homeowner wouldn't like them.
Yeah.
And so I showed it to him and he goes, "Yep, let's do those." So it's kind of nice, kind of give you a little bit of relief and
Yeah.
knowing that you can do something a little different than normal. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
No, I thought that was a great touch. Again, I'm
yeah.
assuming you plan that, but you know how a lot of times when we create
Oh
things,
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't expect certain shadows or
Right,
effects. And it's
right,
like, that's the beauty of what we do, I think, is it's fun.
right, right,
New things happen all the time.
right, right. And I didn't know if I needed them to be brighter or dimmer or,
Yeah.
you know, you don't know. you
Yeah.
know, and you don't know until you actually put it in. And um, so yeah, yeah, no, it's fun when you can do something a little different and
Yeah.
create some interest. Yeah,
Very cool. All right, let me stop sharing this because that was it.
sure.
And I don't know. I mean, any final thoughts? What would you suggest for like new people? I know we kind of mentioned this a little bit, like what's most important, but what are your
Right.
suggestions for newer designers so that they can get more creative or develop their skills?
Well, I think one thing is stop worrying about the brands. Start trying to find fixtures that actually give light, and it's more about the lighting design than it is the fixtures or
The
you know
application, yeah.
the application and
Sure.
but really try to hone in on your design skills. Understand what you're lighting, what the light fixtures are, the type of light that they're going to give.
Hmm.
Path lights, I mean, for the most part, path lights give the same light, but not all of them. And what happens if you raise the stem a little bit? Well, you get a little different pattern of light. It may be softer, but that looks nice too. And
Sure.
walls, try to pull your fixtures back maybe a little bit further and try to do more of a wash than trying to just but I think really is learn the concepts, try to apply them, really try to hone it in, realize that just sticking a fixture in the ground doesn't mean it's going to be good lighting.
Hmm.
So really try to pay attention. Take pictures of your own work, even if you don't show it, because what that does is that gives you time to look at it.
Yep.
And you're actually in the moment, you're looking at the lighting and oh, hey, I could tweak this a little bit, this a little bit. But then you have pictures and you can kind of go back and look and say, oh, you know what if I would have done this? What if I would have done that?
Yep.
So gives you some material to
A
look at
good
and to,
tool.
to think
Yeah, for
about.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
that's awesome. Good
Yeah,
deal. All
yeah,
right, maybe another question.
sure.
Any other designers or people that inspire you in your work, or who have you noticed, I guess, out there that you think's doing good work and why?
Well, obviously Mike Gambino, I like his stuff.
Yeah.
Mike's been doing it for a long time. You can
Yeah.
tell, he knows how to hit the light just right and create the mood and interest and everybody in different parts of the country have different, settings. So the guys over in Oregon and Seattle, I forget his,
Kyle McKelvey
yes,
and Oregon Outdoor
yes,
Light. Yeah, they're really
yeah,
good too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys are really good. I like looking at their pictures and seeing their work. They do nice. It's even throughout. It's not overly focused on one thing.
Yeah.
It's spread out, good light levels and good
Yeah.
placement and stuff like that.
Good.
Tim Ryan,
Yeah.
I like
Well, he's a
Tim's,
great photographer too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, overall, there's a lot of good guys out there that do
Yeah.
a lot of good work. You know, I kind of feel that the young guys and the young gals, they got to get, not worry so much about the marketing and all this. Just try to concentrate on doing good work. If you do good work, the good jobs are going to follow. You know,
Yeah.
it seems to be kind of a push towards the, market to this and raise your prices and all this. Well,
Yeah.
do good work first, and
Yeah.
that'll follow. So
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
But
awesome. Well, it's
yeah,
funny that you mentioned both Kyle and Mike, and they're part of our mentor group. Like
right,
I'm
right,
asking for you
right.
to help get involved with this because again,
Yeah,
I appreciate. I've been following. I try to follow as many people as I can,
sure, sure,
and I think there's guys like you and Mike and Kyle, and there's a few others that I would like to bring in your expertise and just, if you're
sure,
willing to do this on occasion, spend
sure.
time with our select, our premium members that basically are
Right.
interested to grow and advance their skill sets. I
Yeah,
mean, we'd love to
yeah,
have you involved on that occasionally if
yeah,
you're open.
yeah, yeah. I think, to be honest with you, Mark, I think there's a lot of growth potential still in what we're doing.
Yeah,
I think we've kind of hit that level of everyone's kind of got the same tools right now, but I think there's got to be a little change in the optics and the light outputs and some different things that need to kind of happen, and got to get the manufacturers to do some things, but because I think there's more out there. I think there's more potential to do
oh
really nice
yeah,
work and
yeah.
more creative work and it's not just a spotlight and a pathlight anymore. There's a lot more to it. So
That's for sure, for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, again, I'm encouraged by what you're doing, and
Sure.
I look forward each year to seeing new projects that you have.
Yeah, yeah,
It's fun for everybody, and
yeah, yeah.
so thank you for your time.
Sure. No, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's good to kind of help other people out too,
Yeah, for sure.
and try to get that design, get people to start working on design more and worrying less about, the
Yep,
video they got to show or whatever. But
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Well, great.
All right. Well, good
Well,
luck this year, and then we'll be in
okay.
touch here again soon, and
Sure.
we'll see you next round.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
Steve.
All right. We'll talk to you.
Okay.